I died at 31 in a bathtub, my wrists slit by my own shaking hands, while my husband Ethan Morrison was at dinner with my sister Claire telling her how he wished he'd married her instead of me. I know because he'd left his laptop open, and the last thing I saw before blood loss took me was their text conversation. Ethan, I made the wrong choice 7 years ago. You're everything she isn't. Confident, successful, beautiful. I should have pursued you instead of settling. Claire, don't say that. She's my sister. I can't. Ethan, but you feel it too. I see how you look at me. We could have been perfect together. My name is Sophia Morrison, and I spent 7 years being compared to my younger sister Claire. Every day, Ethan found new ways to tell me I wasn't enough. I wasn't as pretty as Claire. I wasn't as ambitious as Claire. I didn't dress like Claire. I didn't socialize like Claire. I was a disappointment, a mistake, the wrong sister. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't in a morgue. I was 24, standing in my childhood bedroom, wearing the white dress my mother had bought for my engagement party. Through the window, I could see guests arriving, Ethan's family, our friends, my parents beaming with pride. In 6 hours, Ethan would propose publicly at this party. In 2 months, we'd be married. In 7 years, I'd kill myself because I couldn't endure being the inferior sister in my own marriage. Not this time. I walked downstairs where my mother was arranging flowers, and my father was greeting guests. Claire was in the kitchen, 22 and radiant in a blue dress that made her eyes shimmer. Sophia, you look beautiful, Claire said, hugging me. I'm so excited for you. Ethan is perfect. In my previous life, I treasured these words. Now I heard what was underneath them. Claire already wanted him. She'd been attracted to him from the moment we'd met, but I'd been the one he'd chosen first. She'd been happy for me, yes, but also envious. And Ethan had sensed it, had cultivated it, had spent 7 years making me feel like I was the consolation prize while Claire was the one he really wanted. Claire, can I talk to you privately? I said. We went upstairs to my room. Claire sat on my bed, smiling. What's wrong? Are you nervous? I'm not going to marry Ethan. Her smile froze. What? Sophia, this is just cold feet. It's not cold feet. I know things about him, about what he really wants. And I'm not going to spend my life competing with you for my own husband's attention. Claire went pale. Competing with me? Sophia, what are you talking about? He's attracted to you. He has been from the beginning. He chose me because I was available and interested, but you're who he actually wants. And if I marry him, he'll spend our entire marriage comparing me to you and making me feel worthless. That's insane. Ethan loves you. No, he doesn't. He loves the idea of having a devoted wife who'll make him look good. And he loves the fantasy of you. Beautiful, successful, unattainable Claire. I'm just the placeholder. Claire stood up, her face flushed. I don't know where this is coming from, but you're being paranoid and hurtful. Ethan has never shown me any inappropriate attention. You're projecting your own insecurities. Am I? Tell me honestly, Claire. Are you attracted to him? Silence. Then quietly. That's not fair. Answer the question. It doesn't matter what I feel. You're with him. I would never. But you do feel it. You're attracted to him. And he knows it. And he's going to use that to torture both of us if I marry him. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Sophia, please. Don't do this. Don't ruin your life because you're scared of your own inadequacies. The words hit like a slap. This was what Ethan had done. Made even my sister believe I was the problem. That my concerns were just insecurity. I'm calling off the engagement, I said. And you need to stay away from Ethan. Because if you don't, he'll destroy you too. I went downstairs before Claire could respond. The party was in full swing. Ethan was holding court near the champagne. Charming and handsome, and completely unaware that his perfect plan was about to implode. Ethan, we need to talk, I said, pulling him aside to the garden. Sure, babe. What's up? His smile was warm, practiced. I'm not going to marry you. The smile didn't falter, but something cold moved behind his eyes. Sophia, if this is about your nerves. It's about you being in love with my sister. Now the smile vanished. What are you talking about? You're attracted to Claire. You have been from the beginning. You chose me because I was easier, but she's who you really want. And I'm not going to spend my life being the wife you settled for. Ethan's expression went through several calculations. Sophia, you're being ridiculous. I love you. Your sister is just. Don't lie. I know how you look at her. I know how you talk about her. I know you compare me to her constantly in your head. And I won't marry someone who sees me as second best. You're insane, Ethan said, but his voice had an edge now. You're letting your jealousy and insecurity destroy something good. Claire is your sister. I respect her, but that's it. If you can't trust me, I don't trust you. Because I know what kind of man you are. The kind who'll spend years making his wife feel worthless because she's not someone else. If I wanted Claire, I'd be with Claire. Ethan's voice was rising now. I'm with you. I propose to you. What more do you want? I want you to admit the truth. Fine. He was shouting now, drawing attention from nearby guests. Fine, yes, I think Claire is attractive. Yes, I've wondered what it would be like with her instead of you. Are you happy now? Does that make you feel better? The garden had gone silent. People were staring. It makes me feel validated, I said calmly. Thank you for being honest. The engagement is off. I walked back inside, leaving Ethan standing in the garden surrounded by shocked guests. My mother found me in the hallway. Sophia, what just happened? I called it off. Ethan is in love with Claire, not me. I'm not marrying someone who wishes I was my sister. My mother's face went through several emotions. But the guests, the deposits, I'll pay back the deposits. I'll apologize to the guests. But I won't ruin my life to avoid embarrassment. My father appeared behind my mother. Did I hear correctly? You called off the engagement? Yes. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Good. I never liked him anyway. Too smooth. Too focused on appearances. My mother started to protest, but my father put his hand on her shoulder. Our daughter's happiness is worth more than avoiding gossip. She made a brave choice. The party dissolved quickly after that. Guests left awkwardly, whispering. Ethan tried to corner me twice, but my father physically blocked him. Claire disappeared without saying goodbye. That night, I sat in my room replaying the scene. In my previous timeline, I'd married Ethan at that party's follow-up wedding. I'd ignored every red flag, every moment of discomfort, every comparison to Claire. I'd told myself love meant sacrifice, that marriage meant compromise, that I could change him. I'd been wrong about all of it. 3 days later, Claire showed up at my apartment. I'd moved out of my parents' house and into a small place downtown, using savings I'd kept separate, something I'd learned from my previous life's financial devastation. We need to talk, Claire said, pushing past me into the apartment. About what? About Ethan. He's been calling me constantly. Texting. Showing up at my work. He says you humiliated him, destroyed his reputation, made him look like a predator at your engagement party. I told the truth. He admitted he's attracted to you. In the middle of a fight you provoked. Claire's voice was sharp. Sophia, do you have any idea what you've done? He's telling everyone you're mentally unstable, that you have paranoid delusions about him and me, that you need help. And you believe him? I believe you sabotaged your own happiness because you're too insecure to trust that someone could actually love you. Claire was crying now. You've always been like this. Always so certain that you're not good enough, that people secretly hate you, that I'm somehow better than you. And now you've ruined a good relationship because you couldn't get out of your own head. Did he ask you out yet? Claire froze. What? Ethan. Did he ask you out? Because that's what comes next. He'll paint me as the crazy jealous sister, position himself as the victim, and then pursue you. And you'll say yes because you've always wanted him. You're delusional. Am I? Tell me honestly, Claire. If Ethan asked you out right now, would you say yes? The silence stretched. Then Claire whispered, that's not fair. It's a simple question. He's your ex-fiancé. I would never. But you want to. You're attracted to him. You've been attracted to him since we met. And now that I'm out of the picture, there's nothing stopping you. Claire backed toward the door. I came here to help you. To warn you that you're destroying your reputation. But you're so wrapped up in your own paranoia that you can't see reality. Reality is that Ethan will ask you out within 2 weeks. And you'll say yes. And within 6 months, you'll marry him. And then you'll spend the rest of your life learning exactly what kind of man he is. You're sick, Sophia. You need help. After Claire left, I sat in my empty apartment and cried. Not from sadness but from frustration. I tried to warn her. I tried to protect her from what was coming. But she couldn't hear me through her own attraction and Ethan's manipulation. So I did the only thing I could. I documented everything. I wrote down every detail of my previous timeline. How Ethan had compared me to Claire daily. How he'd controlled my finances, isolated me from friends, criticized everything about me. How he'd pushed me toward suicide through systematic emotional abuse. I saved it with timestamps and backups. Then I focused on building my own life. In my previous timeline, I'd given up my career as an interior designer to support Ethan's real estate development company. This time, I started my own design firm. I used connections I'd made before, skills I'd developed, and knowledge I'd gained from watching Ethan's business practices. Within 6 months, I'd landed 3 major clients. Within a year, I was profitable and expanding. And exactly as I'd predicted, 2 weeks after the broken engagement, Ethan asked Claire out. She said yes. My mother called me crying. Sophia, did you hear? Claire and Ethan are dating. How could she do this to you? I told her it would happen. She didn't believe me. But your sister, with your ex-fiancé, it's betrayal. It's predictable. Ethan wanted Claire all along. Now he has her. And she'll learn what that costs. Aren't you upset? No. I'm relieved. Better her than me. My father was less sympathetic to Claire. He called her himself and told her she was making a mistake, that Ethan was using her to hurt me, that no good man pursues his ex-fiancée's sister immediately after a breakup. Claire told him she was in love, and he didn't understand. 6 months after my broken engagement, Claire and Ethan got married in a lavish ceremony I didn't attend. My parents went reluctantly, to maintain family peace. They reported back that Ethan had spent the entire reception comparing it favorably to what Sophia's wedding would have been. Smaller, cheaper, less impressive. He's making her compete with you, my father said grimly. Just like you said he would. How does Claire seem? Happy. But nervous. Like she's performing. I knew that feeling intimately. 8 months into their marriage, I ran into Claire at a coffee shop. She looked different. Thinner, more styled. Her natural warmth replaced by something brittle. Sophia, she said, her voice careful. Claire. How are you? I'm good. Really good. Ethan and I are very happy. That's good. An awkward silence. Then Claire said, I wanted to apologize for how I reacted when you called off your engagement. You were right about some things. Ethan did have feelings for me. And I did have feelings for him. But we're making it work now. We're happy together. I'm glad you're happy. Are you? Claire's voice had an edge. Because Ethan says you've been telling people we stole your life. That you're spreading rumors about our marriage. I haven't said anything about your marriage to anyone except my parents. He says you're trying to sabotage us. That you can't stand seeing him happy with someone else. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw the exhaustion behind the makeup, the tension in her shoulders, the way she kept checking her phone. Claire, is he controlling your finances? Her face went blank. What? Your money? Does he have access to your accounts? Does he make you justify purchases? Does he criticize how you spend? That's none of your business. Does he compare you to me? Tell you you're not as something, as I was? Make you feel like you have to constantly prove you're better than I was? Claire's hands were shaking. Stop. Does he isolate you from your friends? Get angry when you make plans without him? Check your phone when you're not looking. Sophia, stop. Tears were streaming down Claire's face now. Just stop. You don't know anything about my marriage. I know everything about your marriage. Because I lived it for 7 years in another life. And it destroyed me. You're insane. Ethan was right about you. Claire left, nearly running. I sat alone with my coffee, feeling sick. She wasn't ready to hear the truth yet. She was still in the phase where she believed she could make him happy, where she thought his criticism was for her own good, where she told herself that if she just tried harder, loved him better, became more perfect, he'd finally be satisfied. I'd been there. I knew how it felt. And I knew she wouldn't leave until she hit the same breaking point I had. 1 year after Claire's marriage, my design firm landed a major contract, redesigning the interior of the city's new luxury apartment complex. It was the biggest project I'd ever handled, and it would establish me as one of the top designers in the region. The developer was Ethan's biggest competitor. I ran into Ethan at the site meeting. He looked older, harder, and when he saw me his face went through surprise, anger, and something that might have been regret. Sophia, I didn't realize you were the designer on this project. Surprise. This is awkward. Given our history. Only if we make it awkward. This is business, Ethan. I'm here to do a job. His jaw tightened. Of course. Very professional. That's always been your strong suit, hasn't it? Cold, professional, unemotional. I prefer to think of it as having boundaries. Right. Boundaries. Is that what you call sabotaging your sister's marriage? I kept my voice level. I haven't sabotaged anything. If your marriage is having problems, that's between you and Claire. She talks about you constantly, compares herself to you, worries that I still have feelings for you. Ethan moved closer, his voice dropping. Did you know that? Your sister is destroying herself trying to be better than you, trying to prove she wasn't a mistake, trying to earn love you threw away. I didn't throw anything away. I escaped something that would have killed me. Dramatic as always. Do you know what your problem is, Sophia? You're so convinced you're not good enough that you ruin anything good that happens to you. I would have made you happy. But you couldn't accept that, could you? You had to create drama, manufacture problems, push me away. You told a garden full of people that you wished I was my sister. I said that in anger because you were attacking me. You were so paranoid and jealous that you ruined what we had over nothing. It wasn't nothing to me. Ethan stepped even closer, and for the first time I saw real anger in his eyes. I made the wrong choice with Claire. She's not you. She tries too hard. She's always performing, always anxious, always worried I'll leave her. You were calm, stable, easy to be with. I took that for granted. Are you seriously telling me you regret marrying my sister? I'm telling you I should have married you. You were the right choice. I just didn't appreciate it until it was too late. My hands clenched into fists. I need you to listen very carefully, Ethan. I don't care that you regret your choice. I don't care that Claire isn't living up to your fantasy of her. I don't care that you finally figured out I was a good partner after you'd already destroyed me. What I care about is doing my job, building my business, and living my life without you in it. Sophia. We're done. Professionally and personally. If you can't work with me on this project, talk to your competitor. But don't ever approach me personally again. I left before he could respond, my legs shaking. That night, I got a text from Claire. Stay away from my husband. I didn't respond. The apartment project became a battleground. Ethan tried to sabotage my work, questioning my designs in meetings, spreading rumors to contractors that I was difficult to work with, even attempting to get me fired from the project. But I documented everything, maintained relationships with key decision-makers, and delivered work so exceptional that his complaints looked like personal vindictiveness. 3 months into the project, the developer called me into a meeting. Ms. Morrison, I need to tell you something. Ethan Morrison has been approaching our investors, trying to convince them to drop you from this project. He claims you're unstable, that you stole his business strategies, that you're only successful because you copied his methods. That's not true. I know. I've had you investigated, professionally, I mean. Your work history, your reputation, your business practices. Everything checks out. What's interesting is that Ethan's business has been declining for the past year. Multiple complaints about cost overruns, poor project management, hostile work environment. Meanwhile, your firm has an impeccable reputation. I'm sorry he's creating problems for you. He's not. He's creating problems for himself. I'm telling you this because I want you to know that whatever personal history you have with him, it won't affect your position on this project. But also because I'm concerned. His behavior toward you is crossing lines. Have you documented his contact? Every instance. Good. Keep doing that. And if he escalates, I want to know immediately. Ethan escalated. 2 weeks later, he showed up at my office after hours. I was working late, alone, when I heard the front door open. We're closed. I called out, my hand reaching for my phone. It's me. Ethan appeared in my doorway. He'd been drinking. I could smell it from across the room. You need to leave. We need to talk. Really talk. Without the professional distance, without the anger. Just you and me honest. There's nothing to talk about. Please leave. Do you know what it's like? He moved into the room, closing the door behind him. Knowing you made the wrong choice? Knowing the person you really wanted was right there, and you were too stupid to see it. Ethan, you're drunk. Go home to your wife. My wife spends every day trying to be you. She dresses like you used to. She styles her hair like yours. She took up interior design even though she hates it. She's become a shell of herself trying to be someone she's not. He laughed bitterly. The irony is I spent our whole relationship wishing she was more like you. And now I have someone trying to be you and it's even worse. That's not my problem. Isn't it? He was getting closer. You did this. You left me. You ruined my reputation. You stole my clients. You made my wife insecure. This is all because you couldn't handle a little criticism. You need to leave. Now. Or what? You'll call the police? Tell them I'm harassing you? Make yourself the victim again? I already had my phone out. Finger on the emergency call button. Yes. That's exactly what I'll do. Something ugly crossed Ethan's face. You know what your problem is? You think you're too good for everyone. You think you're above it all. But you're just a bitter, jealous woman who can't stand to see other people happy. He grabbed my wrist, yanking the phone away. I screamed and kicked him hard in the shin. He stumbled back, and I ran for the door. He caught me in the hallway, slamming me against the wall. You're going to listen to me. I brought my knee up into his groin as hard as I could. He doubled over, and I ran. Out the front door into the street, not stopping until I reached the coffee shop on the corner, where I knew there would be people. The barista took one look at my face and called the police. Ethan was arrested for assault and attempted unlawful restraint. Security cameras from my office building caught everything. His lawyer tried to claim it was a domestic dispute, but we'd been broken up for over a year, and he was married to my sister. Claire called me the next day. How could you do this to him? How could you have him arrested? He assaulted me, Claire. He broke into my office after hours, got physical with me, and tried to trap me in the building. He says you provoked him, that you've been harassing him about our marriage. I've barely spoken to him in a year. The only time I've seen him is at the apartment project, and those interactions were professional and witnessed by dozens of people. He says you're trying to ruin his life because you can't accept that he chose me. I took a breath, trying to stay calm. Claire, I need you to listen to me. Really listen. Ethan is dangerous. He's controlling, manipulative, and now we know he's willing to get physical when he doesn't get his way. I tried to warn you before you married him. I tried to tell you what he's like. But you didn't believe me. You thought I was jealous. Now I'm giving you another warning. Get out before he hurts you too. He's never hurt me. He loves me. Does he criticize you constantly? Make you feel like you're never good enough? Control your money? Isolate you from friends? Check your phone? Tell you that you should be more like me or less like me depending on his mood? Silence. Claire, you don't understand. He's under a lot of stress. His business is struggling. He's worried about money. He's dealing with your false accusations. Of course he's been irritable. It's not about stress. It's about who he is. And who he is an abuser. Don't call him that. He's my husband. He loves me. He doesn't love you, Claire. He loves having someone he can control. First it was me. Now it's you. And when you don't meet his impossible standards, he'll discard you too. Claire hung up. I sat holding my phone, feeling helpless. I'd tried. I'd warned her twice. But she couldn't hear me, not yet. She was still in the phase where she believed she could fix him, change him, love him enough to make him happy. Ethan's assault charge was pled down to harassment. He got probation, a restraining order, and mandatory counseling. His business suffered. Several clients dropped him after the arrest became public. Meanwhile, my firm continued to grow. The apartment project was a massive success. I won awards, got featured in design magazines, expanded to a second office. And Claire's marriage continued to deteriorate. I heard about it through my parents. How Ethan had become increasingly controlling. How he'd convinced Claire to quit her job because it was taking time away from him. How he'd started managing her finances to help her be more responsible. How he criticized her appearance, her cooking, her personality. How he'd told her she wasn't as successful as I'd been, wasn't as naturally talented, needed to work harder to be worthy of him. All the same patterns. All the same manipulation. Just with a different victim. 18 months after Claire's wedding, she showed up at my office unannounced. She looked terrible, gaunt, exhausted, her eyes red from crying. "Can we talk?" she asked. We went to my private office. Claire sat on the couch and started sobbing. "You were right. About everything. He's exactly who you said he was. And I couldn't see it because I was so convinced I could make him happy. So convinced I was special. That he'd be different with me than he was with you." I handed her tissues and waited. "He controls everything. My money, my time, my phone. He tells me I'm not as good as you were. That you were calmer, more stable, easier to be with. He says I'm too emotional, too needy, too inadequate. And I've tried so hard, Sophia. I've tried to be perfect. But nothing I do is ever enough. I know. How did you stand it for 7 years? How did you survive? I didn't. In my previous, I stopped myself. I barely survived. That's why I left. I want to leave. But I don't have money. He controls my accounts. I don't have anywhere to go. My friends don't talk to me anymore because he convinced me they were bad influences. I don't even have a car. He sold mine and put me on his insurance so I'd have to ask permission to drive. You can stay with me. And I'll help you get a lawyer. We'll get you out." Claire looked up, surprised. "After everything I did to you? After I didn't believe you? After I married your ex-fiancé and accused you of sabotaging us? You're my sister. You made mistakes, but you didn't deserve this. No one deserves this." Getting Claire out was harder than I expected. Ethan had isolated her so completely that she had no legal standing to access their joint accounts. He'd convinced her to sign prenuptial agreements that left her with nothing if she initiated divorce. He'd documented every emotional outburst and irrational behavior to build a case that she was mentally unstable. But I had resources he didn't know about. I hired the best divorce lawyer in the state. I documented every instance of financial abuse, isolation, and control. And when Ethan tried to have Claire committed for a psychiatric evaluation, I had 3 therapists ready to testify that his claims were manipulative lies. The divorce took 8 months and was brutal. Ethan fought every detail, trying to prove Claire was an unfit, unstable woman who'd sabotaged their marriage. His lawyer tried to bring me into it, claiming I'd manipulated Claire into leaving. But we had evidence. Texts where Ethan controlled Claire's movements. Bank records showing financial abuse. Testimonies from neighbors who'd heard him screaming at her. And the assault charge against me, proving he had a pattern of violence when he didn't get his way. The judge was not sympathetic to Ethan. Claire got half the marital assets, alimony for 3 years, and a restraining order. Ethan's business took another hit. His remaining clients didn't want to work with someone proven to be financially abusive and controlling. 2 years after the broken engagement, I attended Claire's divorce finalization hearing. Afterward, we went to lunch. "I'm sorry," Claire said. "I should have believed you from the beginning. I should have trusted that you knew him better than I did. But I was arrogant. I thought I was special. I thought he'd love me differently than he loved you. He didn't love either of us. He loved control. We were just convenient targets." "Do you think he regrets marrying me? Like really regrets it? Not just because I left, but because I wasn't who he wanted?" "Yes. Because you were never going to be the fantasy version of you he created in his head. No one could be. And you? Do you regret walking away when you did? I thought about my previous timeline. About the 7 years of systematic destruction. About dying in that bathtub, convinced I was worthless. Not for a second. Walking away from that engagement was the best decision I ever made. It saved my life. 6 months after the divorce, Ethan attempted to contact me through a mutual acquaintance. He wanted to apologize, the acquaintance said. He wanted to make amends. He wanted a chance to explain. I declined. Some people don't deserve the closure they're seeking. Ethan had destroyed 2 women, one in my previous timeline, one in this timeline. He'd systematically broken us down, made us feel worthless, and blamed us for his own shortcomings. He didn't deserve my forgiveness or my time. A year after Claire's divorce, I was at a design industry conference when I ran into Ethan one final time. He looked worse than I'd ever seen him. Older, defeated, barely holding on to the professional appearance he'd always prized. "Sophia," he said. "Can we talk? Just for a moment." Against my better judgment, I agreed to 5 minutes. "I wanted to tell you that I'm in therapy. Real therapy. And I've been working through my behavior patterns. The therapist says I have narcissistic personality disorder and control issues stemming from childhood trauma. I'm on medication now. I'm trying to change." "Good for you." I wanted to apologize. To both you and Claire. For how I treated you. For the comparisons, the control, the emotional abuse. I understand now that what I did was wrong. That I damaged both of you trying to fulfill some impossible fantasy of the perfect relationship. Okay. Is that all you have to say? Just okay. What do you want, Ethan? Absolution? Forgiveness? The satisfaction of knowing your apology made me feel better. I want you to know I understand now. That I was wrong. That you were right to leave. I already knew that. Your apology doesn't change anything for me. It's something you needed to say for yourself. But it doesn't repair the damage you caused or erase what you did. Ethan's face crumpled. Do you hate me? No. I nothing you. You're a person who exists somewhere I'm not. Your feelings, your growth, your regret. None of that impacts my life anymore. I'm not carrying anger for you because that would mean you still mattered. You don't. I walked away, leaving him standing there. And I felt nothing, not satisfaction, not vindication, not even pity. Just complete indifference. That evening, Claire called me. She'd started dating someone new. A quiet accountant who respected her boundaries and thought she was amazing exactly as she was. He's nothing like Ethan, she said. He's not exciting or charismatic or commanding. He's just kind. And present. And interested in who I actually am instead of who he wants me to be. That sounds perfect. Sophia, I don't think I've ever thanked you properly. For warning me. Even when I didn't listen. For helping me escape. For not saying I told you so even though you absolutely told me so. You're my sister. I love you. That doesn't change just because you made mistakes. I love you too. And I'm sorry I didn't see what you saw. I'm sorry I chose him over you. I'm sorry for all of it. We survived. That's what matters. 3 years after the broken engagement, I attended Claire's second wedding. She married the accountant, Michael, who looked at her like she was the most important person in the world. Who hadn't met me until after they'd been dating 6 months, because Claire wanted to make sure the relationship was real before involving family. Who treated her like a partner, not a project. At the reception, Claire pulled me aside. I keep thinking about the alternate universe where you didn't call off your engagement. Where you married Ethan and I stayed out of it. What do you think would have happened? I thought about my previous timeline. About dying in that bathtub while Ethan was with Claire. Fantasizing about the life they could have had. I think I would have died. And I think he still would have pursued you. And you still would have ended up where you were. Trapped, controlled, diminished. The only difference is I wouldn't have been here to help you escape. Claire shuddered. I'm glad you called it off. I'm glad you saw through him before it was too late. Me too. 5 years after the broken engagement, my design firm was featured in a national magazine as one of the top boutique firms in the country. I'd expanded to 3 offices, employed 20 people, and had a waiting list of clients. I was also dating someone, an architect named James who I'd met through work. He was nothing like Ethan. He challenged me intellectually, respected my boundaries, and had his own thriving career that he didn't expect me to sacrifice myself for. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you'd married Ethan? James asked me one evening. Sometimes. But not with regret. More like gratitude that I didn't. What made you see it? What made you realize you needed to leave? I couldn't tell him about dying in another timeline and being given a second chance. So I said, I recognized the pattern. I saw that he was trying to make me compete with my own sister for his approval. And I knew that if I married him, I'd spend the rest of my life feeling like I wasn't enough. That takes a lot of self-awareness to recognize that early. It took dying to learn it, I said, then caught myself. Metaphorically, I mean. It took almost destroying myself to understand what I needed. James looked at me carefully. You've been through something, haven't you? Something you don't talk about. Everyone has. But I learned from it. And I made different choices because of what I learned. That night, I thought about both of my lives. The one where I'd married Ethan and slowly been destroyed until there was nothing left but pain and pills. And this one, where I'd walked away and built something real. The difference had come down to one moment of clarity at that engagement party. One decision to prioritize myself over avoiding embarrassment. One choice to believe my instincts over everyone else's expectations. 7 years after what would have been my wedding to Ethan, the exact anniversary of my death in the previous timeline, I stood in my office looking at the design awards lining the walls, the photos of completed projects, the team of talented designers I'd hired and mentored. In my previous life, I'd been dead for exactly 7 years at this moment. In this life, I was thriving. Claire stopped by that afternoon. She was pregnant with her first child, glowing with genuine happiness I'd never seen in her marriage to Ethan. I was thinking, she said, settling into my office couch, about that engagement party. About how you blew up your life to save yourself. Do you know what the craziest part is? What? I was angry at you for years. Even after I married Ethan and realized you were right, I was still angry that you'd seen the truth and I hadn't. That you'd been strong enough to walk away and I hadn't been. You did walk away eventually. But only after you showed me it was possible. Only after you demonstrated that surviving him was an option. Claire's eyes filled with tears. You saved my life twice, Sophia. Once by refusing to marry him, and once by helping me escape him. And I never properly thanked you. You don't need to thank me for not letting you destroy yourself. Yes, I do. Because not everyone would have helped after how I treated you. Not everyone would have forgiven me for marrying your ex-fiancé and accusing you of sabotage. You're my sister. Sisters save each other. 10 years after the broken engagement, Ethan died. Heart attack at 44, brought on by stress, drinking, and untreated mental health issues. I found out through an obituary someone sent me, thinking I'd want to know. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not sadness, not closure. Just acknowledgement that a person who'd once tried to destroy me was no longer capable of destroying anyone. I didn't attend the funeral. Claire didn't either. We'd both moved on to lives that didn't include him even as a memory. The obituary mentioned his successful career in real estate development and his dedication to his work. It didn't mention the women he'd abused, the relationships he'd destroyed, or the fact that his business had been failing for years. Do you think he ever really understood what he did? Claire asked when she called me after seeing the obituary. I think he understood he'd lost control of us. I don't think he understood why that was his fault instead of ours. Do you think he died regretting marrying me? I think he died regretting that neither of us would let him destroy us. Whether that regret was about me or you specifically doesn't matter. It was always about his inability to control the narrative. 15 years after the broken engagement, I married James in a small ceremony surrounded by people who actually knew and loved us. Claire was my maid of honor. My parents walked me down the aisle together, beaming with pride. At the reception, my father gave a toast. 15 years ago, my daughter made the hardest decision of her life. She called off an engagement in front of 100 people because she knew, deep in her soul, that the marriage would destroy her. Everyone thought she was making a mistake. Everyone told her she was being paranoid, jealous, unreasonable. But she trusted herself over all of us. And that trust saved her life. Sophia, your strength taught our whole family that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is disappoint people by saving yourself. To Sophia and James, may you never have to be that strong because you've chosen someone who makes strength unnecessary. James squeezed my hand as everyone raised their glasses. That night, lying in bed next to my husband, I thought about the two versions of my life. The one where I'd ignored every warning sign and married a man who'd seen me as inferior to my own sister. Where I'd spent 7 years being systematically broken down, until I couldn't see a way forward except death. And this life, where I'd trusted myself enough to walk away. Where I'd built a career that was entirely mine. Where I'd helped my sister escape the same trap I'd avoided. Where I'd found actual love with someone who saw me clearly and loved what he saw. The difference had been one word: no. No, I won't marry someone who wishes I was my sister. No, I won't sacrifice myself to avoid embarrassment. No, I won't let your regret become my problem. No, I won't spend my life competing with a fantasy. That single word, said firmly at a moment when everyone expected me to say yes, had changed everything. Ethan had thought he could manipulate me into marrying him, then spend our marriage wishing I was Claire. When I'd refused, he'd married Claire instead, spent their marriage wishing she was me, and died regretting that neither of us was the fantasy woman he'd created in his head. He'd thought he was choosing between two women. He'd never understood that we'd both chosen ourselves over him. And that was the choice that actually mattered. 20 years after the broken engagement, I was 54 years old with 2 children, a successful business, and a marriage built on actual partnership rather than control and comparison. Claire and I were closer than we'd ever been. We spent holidays together, our children were best friends, and we joke sometimes about the alternate universe where we'd let a man come between us. Do you ever wonder what he'd think? Claire asked one Christmas dinner. Seeing us now, successful and happy and completely fine without him? I think he'd find a way to make it about him, I said. He'd say we only succeeded because we learned from him, or that we're pretending to be happy to spite him, or that we're actually miserable but hiding it. Probably, Claire agreed. He could never just let people move on. But we did move on. That's the thing he never understood. We weren't characters in his story. We were real people with our own lives. And when we walked away, we didn't stop existing, we started living. That night, tucking my daughter into bed, she asked me something unexpected. Mom, Aunt Claire said you almost married someone else before Dad. Someone mean. Is that true? Yes. I was engaged to someone who wasn't very kind. What made you realize he was mean? He made me feel like I wasn't good enough. Like I was always competing with someone else for his approval. And I decided that feeling wasn't worth any relationship. Did he say sorry? Eventually. But by then it didn't matter. Because I'd already built a life without him. Was he sad you left? Yes. But not because he loved me. Because he lost control over me. What's the difference? Love wants you to be happy, even if it's not with them. Control wants you to be theirs, even if it makes you miserable. My daughter thought about this. I'm glad you married Daddy instead. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. 25 years after the broken engagement, I was 64 and considering retirement. My firm was well established, my children were grown with careers of their own, and James and I were planning to travel. I was organizing old files when I found the document I'd written the day after my rebirth. The timeline of everything that had happened in my previous life. I read through it one final time, seeing the alternate version of myself who'd married Ethan and slowly been destroyed. Then I deleted it. I didn't need the reminder anymore. Didn't need to remember what I'd escaped or who I'd been when I was dying in that bathtub. That life was gone. This life was real. And this life, built on the foundation of one firm no at an engagement party 25 years ago, was everything the other life hadn't been. Authentic, joyful mine. Ethan had married my sister thinking she was an upgrade. He'd spent their marriage discovering she wasn't the fantasy he'd created, any more than I had been. He'd died regretting his choices but never understanding that the problem wasn't which sister he'd chosen. It was that he'd seen us as interchangeable objects rather than individual people. His regret hadn't changed anything for me. His death hadn't given me closure. What had given me closure was building a life so full that he simply wasn't part of it. Not as a memory to process, not as a wrong to avenge, not even as a cautionary tale to share. He was just a person I'd almost married once. A bad decision I'd managed not to make. And in the end, that was the greatest victory. Not that he'd suffered or regretted or realized his mistakes, but that I'd recognized mine before it was too late, and chosen myself instead. Claire's voice pulled me from my thoughts. She'd stopped by with her grandchildren. 2 beautiful kids who called me Auntie Sophia, and had no idea their grandmother had once married the man who'd almost destroyed us both. "What are you thinking about?" Claire asked, seeing the distant look on my face. "Nothing important. Just old history." "Ethan." "Not really. More like the life I didn't live because I made different choices." "Do you ever regret it?" "Not the not marrying him part. But the way it happened. The public scene. The family drama. The years of people thinking you were paranoid or jealous or unstable." "No. Because all of that was temporary embarrassment. Marrying him would have been permanent destruction. I chose embarrassment over destruction. That was the right call. It was brave. It was survival. I just had the advantage of knowing what I needed to survive from." As Claire left with her grandchildren, James found me standing in my office, looking at the deleted file location on my computer. "What was that?" he asked. "A reminder of who I used to be. Or who I could have been. I'm not sure anymore." "And who are you now?" I thought about the question. About the 2 lives I'd lived. About the choice that had changed everything. I'm someone who knows that being alone is better than being diminished. That embarrassment fades but regret doesn't. That the only competition worth winning is the one with your own fear. That's very philosophical. I had 25 years to figure it out. That evening, we sat on our porch watching the sunset. 25 years of marriage. 49 years of life in this timeline. And every day of it earned by one decision I'd made when I was 24 years old. To trust myself over everyone else's expectations. Ethan had regretted marrying me in the previous life. He'd regretted marrying Claire in this one. He died never understanding that the problem wasn't his choices. It was his belief that women existed to fulfill his fantasies rather than live their own lives. His regret had never been about me or Claire as individuals. It had been about his own inability to be happy with reality. And the beautiful truth was, his regret didn't matter. It never had. What mattered was that Claire and I had both escaped. That we'd built lives we actually wanted. That we'd found partners who loved us as we were rather than wishing we were someone else. What mattered was that the man who'd tried to destroy us both had failed. And what mattered most was that neither of us had waited for his regret or his apology or his acknowledgement of what he'd done wrong. We'd simply chosen ourselves and moved forward. That was the real ending. Not revenge or vindication or watching him suffer. Just living well while he became irrelevant. 25 years after that engagement party, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Alive, free. And so far beyond the man who'd once tried to convince me I was less than my own sister that I could barely remember what his face looked like. And that forgetting, that complete indifference to someone who'd once dominated my thoughts, was the greatest victory of all.